Are you Matthew Aldridge?
I'm the attorney of fact for Matthew Aldridge.
You were what?
The attorney of fact.
Attorney what?
Of fact.
Attorney of fact. And what does that mean?
You know, his authorization to do legal representation.
Are you a licensed attorney?
No, I'm simply an attorney of fact.
Okay. And does that mean you have a power of attorney? What is your name? What is your name?
All right, everyone. Today's court hearing is truly something else. We've got a man identified in the paperwork as Matthew Aldridge, but the person standing at the podium is refusing to acknowledge that name. Instead, he's claiming to be an attorney of fact, which, for the record, isn't a real legal role or concept. This is a common tactic used by so-called sovereign citizens. They often argue that the court has no authority over them and that the legal system somehow doesn't apply. But the reality is simple. Courts have jurisdiction over anyone who is physically present within their area. There's no special exemption or workaround for that. The judge sees right through the argument and doesn't entertain it for even a moment. With calm authority and clear reasoning, the judge shuts it down completely and makes the law crystal clear. By the end of the hearing, it's obvious who understands the legal system and who doesn't. Let's jump into it and see how this unfolds.
My name?
Yes, sir.
I don't have.
You don't have a name? Pardon?
I'm the attorney of fact for the respondent mayor.
Well, let me explain to you. Only an attorney at law can stand in court and represent a criminal defendant. And to do so otherwise violates the criminal law statutes of the state of Tennessee and could land someone who attempts to represent themselves as an attorney at law in serious trouble. I understand what you're saying. I understand you're saying an attorney in fact. And what I want you to understand is that if you have a power of attorney, then you need to demonstrate that power of attorney. Do you have a legal document called a power of attorney?
No, I do not this time.
Okay. Then you don't have any authority to act on behalf of Matthew Aldridge in this court. You have no legal authority, nor do you have any authority through a legal document to represent or to act on behalf of Matthew Aldridge.
Why don't the court just let me file this document?
Show it to the bailiff and he'll show it to me.
Have a copy of it.
Oh, apparently there's a copy here.
I mean, it's one thing for someone to claim they're an attorney of fact, but this guy actually tried to prove it by handing the judge a single sheet of paper. You didn't get to see it clearly on camera because things slowed down at that moment, but the document supposedly quoted a completely made-up law. According to him, this imaginary rule gave him the authority to represent Matthew Aldridge in court. Here's the reality, though. Real attorneys must be licensed by the state, follow strict legal procedures, and meet professional standards. You don't become a lawyer by writing something on paper and deciding it sounds official. The legal system doesn't work on homemade documents or personal interpretations of the law. People who follow these sovereign citizen ideas love to argue about jurisdiction, as if simply declaring themselves outside the system makes it true. It doesn't. Courts operate on well-established, written laws that have been tested and enforced for years. Judges aren't there to debate fantasy legal theories, and this judge makes that very clear. Honestly, I have to wonder, are these types of arguments becoming more common, or do I just keep running into these unusual courtroom moments? Let me know what you think in the comments.
All right. Well, I find that Matthew Neal Aldridge has failed to appear personally in this court for the plea day on his case, which is set for trial tomorrow. And as a result, you have no standing, sir, under what I know what you're trying to do is to try to use the sovereign citizen approach to this situation. And I'm simply telling you that you do not have the right to represent Matthew Neal Aldridge. If you are, in fact, Matthew Neal Aldridge, then you need to say so and stop this nonsense, because what you're attempting to do has no legal effect. You cannot challenge the criminal law or the jurisdiction of this court by simply filing some legal mumbo jumbo having to do with civil litigation. That has civil litigation in it. It is not a criminal case that you have cited. So it has no effect on this court regarding the criminal statutes of this court. This court is empowered under the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Tennessee and by the duly elected citizens of Cheatham County to empower and enforce the laws of the state of Tennessee. And that is what I'm going to do regarding Matthew Lynn Aldridge. Mr. Aldridge is set for today to appear in court personally on what we call our last plea day before his trial date tomorrow.
Is that an article 3 trial?
To what?
Will that be an article 3 trial? A trial by jury with jury?
It would be a trial by jury, certainly it would be. But I don't know who you are. And I don't think you have any authority if you are not Matthew Lynn Aldridge to appear before this court. And you are wasting valuable time to all of these other citizens who are here today. So when I'm talking, you stop talking. No, you will when I'm finished talking. You are wasting the court's time by doing this. And I'm just simply instructing you that if you are in fact Matthew Lynn Aldridge, then this is your last day to settle your case. The trial date is set for tomorrow, and unfortunately, it will not go forward because of the fact that I have a conflict and I have to be in Stewart County on a civil matter. So we're going to assign a new trial date for Matthew Lynn Aldridge. All right, to Matthew Aldridge and the individual standing before me whose name must not be uttered.
This judge handled the situation like a true professional. He stayed calm, focused, and completely in control while shutting down every flawed argument that came his way. The man barely had time to push his so-called attorney of fact claims before the judge broke them down step by step. It was clear the judge had seen this kind of behavior before. Once the made-up laws started coming out, the court wasted no time addressing them directly. One moment that stood out was when the judge pointed out that the man wouldn't even properly state his own name. That brief exchange added a rare touch of personality, which you don't often see from judges who usually remain very reserved. From the very beginning, it was obvious the court wasn't going to spend valuable time entertaining baseless arguments. In the end, this hearing is a good example of how ineffective these tactics really are. They don't confuse the court, they don't delay justice, and they certainly don't change the outcome.
Then we will set a July 15th trial date for Mr. Aldridge. Whatever this document is that you have filed is in fact invalid because it does not cite any valid criminal statute, and therefore I'm denying whatever that might be in the way of a motion. The trial date will be July 15th. The last day for Mr. Aldridge to enter a plea or go to trial will be July the 8th. July the 8th. Now, we're going to give you a card. If you are, in fact, Matthew Aldridge and you're just playing games with the court regarding this nonsense that you filed, then you may get this card and you may go on about your business. If you are not Matthew Aldridge, then I would suggest to you, you relay to Mr. Aldridge that he must appear on July the 8th, or a bond revocation will take place and his case will be will take place with him in jail, incarcerated on the 15th. That's the judgment of the court. You need to take your piece of paper and go on about your business.
Sovereign citizen arguments really are in a category of their own. These are people who genuinely believe they can step outside the legal system simply by saying they don't recognize the government's authority. They often bring up ideas like common law or the UCC, also known as the Uniform Commercial Code, but they usually misunderstand what those laws actually mean and how they apply. To be clear, courts operate under federal, state, and local laws that have been established for a very long time and are supported by the Constitution. There is no hidden option that lets someone personally opt out of those rules. The law doesn't change based on personal beliefs, no matter how strongly someone feels about them. What ends up happening is that courtrooms get tied up with strange arguments that go nowhere. Instead of helping their situation, these tactics often make things worse and can lead to additional charges, fines, or a permanent record. From a legal standpoint, these defenses collapse because of one simple concept: jurisdiction. Courts have authority over anyone within their geographic area, regardless of what legal theories someone claims to follow. These arguments might sound convincing in online groups or private discussions, but judges have heard them many times before. They don't treat them as clever or persuasive, and they certainly don't allow them to derail real proceedings. In fact, trying to avoid responsibilities like taxes or traffic violations using these methods can result in even harsher consequences for wasting the court's time. Personally, it's hard to understand why people keep attempting this. Whether it's misplaced confidence, misinformation, or a sense of rebellion, the result is usually the same. They are not challenging the system, they are hurting their own case. That's going to wrap up my breakdown for today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on sovereign citizen arguments in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and take care.